ಇನ್ನೊಂದೇನು ಅಂದರೆ I was very lucky to be at a time when I have experienced filmmaking where you're shooting on film. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ it's all digital. So shooting on film, reel, I mean, I don't know how many, anybody here who's experienced anything? It's a different thing. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವೇನು ಫೋನಲ್ಲಿ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. There is no limit there is as to how much you can shoot. But back then, because film costs, I think every 4 minutes of film costs about 12,000 rupees or something. So that was expensive. So ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣವೇ there used to be like a different buzz. ಅಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ರಾಂಗ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂದರೆ they knew that much film is wasted. And it was a fear, it was a sort of a sadness that everyone would experience, not just the director, cinematographer, even an assistant director in the hidu, and yaro coffee kodorinda hidu, they all knew the importance of a take back then. Ivattin dina we are all overshooting because we have no limit on how much digital data can be shot. So what is very interesting in this is that we have forgotten how to get a precise thing rehearsed and performed. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನು ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಆ್ಯಂಗಲು ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಟಾಪ್ ಆ್ಯಂಗಲು ತೊಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ವೈಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಗಲು ತೊಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಎಲ್ಲ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಅಟ್ ದ ಎಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ಈಸ್ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ವಾಟ್ ಟು ಯೂಸ್ ಎನಿಮೋರ್. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ವಿಷನ್ ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಗೇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಐ ಲರ್ನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ Yograj sir was that you had to plan these shots, and especially Manasare hodaga, if there is a one-page scene, he would say idu wide, idu close up, idu. I'm like, so idun ille decide madbeka anta. I thought all this you shoot and at the editing table you do it. Then you're like, no, you have to decide. You can't keep shooting everything in all the angle. So this sort of a discipline was amazing, and I really feel sad for the new generation because they won't get this experience of camera nal on sound barodu when the film is running, right? And that sound used to be like a heartbeat or something. Our sound kelistide andre everyone would be super serious about the moment. But now it's so I shot Life Ishtane on film. That was another interesting, so that I've made film on film as well as digital. So it was a great transition period for me which I experienced. ಅವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, we used to rehearse. Like every actor knew that they had to rehearse. ಎಲ್ಲ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಶೂಟ್. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ಈವನ್ ಅ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ರಿಹರ್ಸಲ್ ಕೂಡ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡೆಡ್. ಹೂ ನೋಸ್, ಸಮ್ ಮೊಮೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಯೂಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ರಿಯಲೈಸ್ಡ್, ಪಂಚರಂಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಐ ಸೆಡ್ ಓಕೆ, ದ ಓನ್ಲಿ ರೀಸನ್ ಐ ಬಿಕೇಮ್ ಅ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ವಾಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನೋಬಡಿ ಪೇಸ್ ಯು ಟು ಬಿ ಅ ರೈಟರ್. ಈವನ್ ಟುಡೇ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಒಂದು ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟ್ನ ನಾನು ಬರ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೇನು ಅಂತ ದುಡ್ಡು ಅಂತ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ. ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ಲಿ ಎನಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಲಿವ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸರ್ವೈವ್. ಸೊ ಅಗೇನ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಅ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್, ಬಟ್ ಐ ರಿಯಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ಬರೀತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಅ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ಐ ಸೆಡ್ ಓಕೆ, ಲೆಟ್ ಮೀ ಟ್ರೈ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್. ಎನಿವೇ ನಾಟಕಗಳು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಒಂದು ಇತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ ಮೀ ಟ್ರೈ ಅಂತ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಮೆನಿ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಫೆಲ್ ಇನ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್. Producer Digant agreeing, I also had a story I had written, so hence Life Ishtane happened. And Life Ishtane is one interesting anecdote ಏನಂದರೆ, because as a filmmaker the first thing they say is you need to know when to say cut, more than when to say action. So my first shot, first shot, ದಿಗಂತದು ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಧು ಒಂದು ಸೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತು ವೆರ್ ಐ ಸೆಡ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ and there's a lot of pressure. There are some 300 people around you and everybody is wondering, everybody is judging what you're going to do. I didn't say cut for 3.5 minutes. And then finally I said cut, and the cinematographer said 3.5 ನಿಮಿಷ ಓಡ್ತು ಅಂತ. And I remember how panicked I was for those next 10 minutes, because suddenly 3.5 minutes of film is over, and for the day they'll give you probably 15 to 20 minutes of the film to shoot. So ashtotiga then we sent everyone for breakfast, and I had to like mentally prep. Okay, so now you're not doing theater, you're doing a movie, and you have to know when to say cut, because I was lost in what they were doing. And so that was a great story to remember. You know how to that you have to know when to say cut anta, and so yeah, Lifeudu, if we go back to the idea what I was saying, why did Lifeu happen? Why did a story like Lifeushtane got written? I don't know how many of you have even seen it. Lifeushtane was about a young boy who's dealing with it's a popular romantic genre film. Uh, so again, how do you come up with a film story? Is for me, I had just gotten married. I have had relationships before I got married, and at that point, I met a friend who was single and who had broken up, and he was crying about the breakup. So I hit this thought that, how do we process earlier relationships? How does one today, not that anybody is having just, meeting one person and getting married and spending the rest of their life with them. So there are these experiences that we all will have. And how do we, in retrospect, process this? That was the starting point of the film. And one of the lines which also motivated was, I can't remember to forget you. If you just write that, it's a very interesting line. I can't remember to forget you. Okay, so that was a line that also helped kind of work on that theme. So the Life Ushtane was all about a character called Vishal, played by Digant, who's gone through many relationships, and at the end we say, is it good to remember them? Is it good to celebrate them, uh, or try very hard to forget them? That's what the film was about, and of course narrated in the most commercially viable, popular genre elements and songs. I had shot 2 songs in Ladakh, and all those things were there. Uh, but what happened with Lifeu was it really kind of connected me to an audience very interestingly. I never thought that that film would do that for me. But it suddenly became like this. It didn't do so well. It was like an above average hit commercially, which I didn't understand why, because I thought I had ticked all the boxes. I had songs, all humor was there, everything was there, but I realized that that's our market. That's how a film does of that nature. ಆಮೇಲೆ ತುಂಬ ಜನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಮದು ತುಂಬ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಇದು ಅಂತ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಇನ್ 2011 ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ವಾಸ್ ಮಚ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲರ್ ಇನ್ ನಂಬರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟುಡೇ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್. ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಯಾರೋ ನೋಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಹಿಂದಿ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಥರ ಇದೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದವ್ರು ಇದನ್ನು ನೋಡಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ವರ್ ಆಲ್ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬಟ್ ಅವಾಗ ದ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಥ್ರೂ ವಿತ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಡ್, ವಿಚ್ ವಾಸ್ ಈಗ ನನಗೇನು ಅಂದರೆ ನಾನೊಂದು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಅದನ್ನು ಆದಷ್ಟು ಜನ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಥಿಯೇಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯಿತು. ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ದೊಂದು 5-6 week ರನ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ದ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಡನ್, ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ಮೂವ್ಸ್ ಆನ್. The producer is doing the next film, the actors are already shooting the next film. But you as a director, writer, you'll still be holding on to your story. You were like, okay, only 1 lakh people saw it maybe, but I want to show it to more people. So I was in that zone. And since our film in ashtu dud madirilla, it was not like such a big hit, nobody came to me and said, hey, I'll produce your next film anta. So in my quest to show this film to more people, I stumbled upon what is called as a pay-per-view system on internet, wherein you put a film up and people can pay and watch the film anywhere. And I thought that's what I wanted. So I had a blog I created, spent a lot of time figuring all the tech, and my producer didn't care. He said, ha hakoli anta. So I took a copy of the film, uploaded it on the net, and people could pay $5 and watch the film. And suddenly this was happening for the first time in Kannada industry. And I was surprised how many people across the globe were able to access the film. And I could see every morning I would wake up, refresh my this thing, and I would see $300, $400 coming in from different parts of the world. And suddenly I had stumbled upon something amazing, which is to connect to people who are willing to pay and not just like, share, or any of that. An audience which is willing to say that, hey, But there is also the other side. As soon as I put up the film, it was available on all the torrents and everything. So there is, it's a double-edged sword. So, but this led to the idea of crowdfunding. This whole life ushtenena hege, and people started talking to me directly. People started, awaga Facebook kuda became quite new and big. It was a good, healthy social media space, unlike what we have today. So people were more interested in connecting genuinely, the commenting, the idea exchanges were more genuine. And there was nothing called as inorganic. Everything was organic back then, you know. So the idea of ad, ಏನು ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. So I would say what we stumbled on Lucia as a funding method was a, ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ, being in the right place at the right time. Today, the same film or a better film will still not get any funding, whether it's me or anybody else pitching for it. So I was very lucky that time, 2012, when people had just started opting to be on Facebook, just started accepting what is social media, and we all interacted. And I'm guessing most of you know what Lucia is. So in storytelling, again, Lucia do hege khate and why, like I said, life ushtenege, what was the trigger to write the story. Hagene Lucia genittu andre, by the time I did Lifeu, I had a lot of I had done few films as an actor, Manasare, Pancharangi, Lifeu, and ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ recognizable face ಆಗಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ. So whenever I used to, I'm a very shy person, I don't like too much attention. So when I used to go to a restaurant or something and people would come and talk, ಅವಾಗ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸೆಲ್ಫಿ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟು ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಅಥವಾ they would, you know that somebody is looking at you, you know that somebody is pointing and saying, hey, ಅವನು ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ. So I used to find it very little, you know, ಅವಾಗ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ದು, ಈಗ ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿರೋದೇ 2-3 ಸಿನಿಮಾ, ಅದರಲ್ಲೇ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಜನ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ವಾಟ್ ವಿಲ್ a Shah Rukh Khan feel, what will a Punit Rajkumar or a Sudeep, what will these guys feel, you know, will they be able to even go to a restaurant, will they be able to go to a Shanti Sagar and eat an idli, or will they be able to go Madhavan Park hatra ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಪಾನಿಪುರಿ ತಿನ್ನಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ, will he be able to do it? And then the thought came, what if that is his dream, you know, that his dream is to be very normal. So that's how it started. So again, coming back to my earlier this thing when I started talking, that it's nice if you can identify what is your inner thought, because that can be the seed for your entire film, which can change your life entirely, which was what Lucia did to me. So something as simple as that, which was driven by that thought. Adralli, then I started adding many layers. ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ನನಗೆ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ವಾಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅ ಲಿಟ್ರಲ್ ಡ್ರೀಮ್. ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಲೈನ್, ಓ ಹಿ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ವಿಶಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂತ. ದೆನ್ ದಿ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಆಫ್ ಓ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬೇರೆ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಆಸ್ ಐ ಕೀಪ್ ರೀರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟ್. ಲೂಸಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸಿಂಗ್, ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್, ಕನ್ನಡ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್, ಅ ಲವ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ, ತುಂಬ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲನೂ ಬರಿತಾ ಇಟ್ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ adding up. It's not like the whole vision is there in the first script. Or usually first script is like 2 pages where you have a bland idea of what the story is going to be. So yeah, then the film project was a while 50% was making the film, the other 50% was how to make the film. So one of the things that I experienced, my biggest problem in filmmaking is locations. You know, that's a very interesting thing. ನಾವು ಬರೆದು ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ ಥಿಯೇಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ, ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಬರಿಬೋದು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಯು ದ ಮೀಡಿಯಮ್ ಸೇಸ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ an entire palace with just 2 lights, and you as an audience will believe that that's the palace, because that's the medium. You have also bought a ticket saying that, okay, he's going to tell me that I have to imagine a palace and he's a king, and I'll imagine that and I'll watch the play. You will never question why there is no palace there. But cinema is not like that. Cinema is, you have to show the palace. You have to show these things. If you say train al hogtidru andre, you have to show him sitting in the train, and then you have to. So it's, as soon as you put a scene, girl sitting in the train by the window looking outside, ಹೋಯ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲೇ 2-3 ಲಕ್ಷ ಬಡ್ಜೆಟ್. ಲೈಕ್ ಗೆಟ್ ದ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಆರ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಸೋ ಟ್ರಿಕಿ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನೋ ಮನಿ. So my biggest struggle with Lucia was that first I wrote thinking Sudeep sir will do it, I'll get some 8-9 crores to do it, and wrote everything, and then when I figured nobody is going to do it, and I have to finish the film now, we somehow crowdfund aitu, we got 50 lakh. Now how do you make that vision happen in 50 lakh? So the very interesting snippets idanna nanu tumba detail agi, again I don't know how many have seen it, but if you go to my YouTube channel, there is a good 2-hour content on how Lucia was made. That is actually the masterclass. Like, I go back to learn from it. It's so interesting. I mean, many of the things, not I'm saying that I was smart enough to do it, it's just that at that point it happened, that some magical learning happened to me as well. So it's very nicely described there. So anybody who's very interested in learning cinema should watch it. It's better than the film. Many people have said the making of Lucia is better than Lucia itself. Anta. So adu 22 chapters ಇದೆ. So I mean, I could have shown you some now, but it's an interesting thing. Go watch it. You will learn a lot from those experiences.